here, welcome to the Autoless YouTube channel. If you're already an Autoless family member, thank you. And what's swinging, gang? So if you saw the last video, and if you didn't see the last video, you guys saw that Sasha was putting down massive amounts of boost and power at the drag strip, but she couldn't get the car to hook.
BMW taking out a Mustang, this is going to be a surprising race record. That BMW is a lot faster, even though it's a full-size SUV. It's faster than you would think it would be. Who comes out ahead?
And I have good news and bad news about that whole situation. But before I get into the great news, shall I say great news instead of good news, I'm gonna get into some of the questions you guys asked last video. One of the main questions you guys asked was what PSI was in the tire. I ran 22 in the rear, 25 in the front. 25 in the front. Perfect for a 5,300 pound SUV. You guys asked me what tires was I running. I was running 305, 35, 20 drag radials on all four corners. Which is a lot of grip, you know. Well, not enough grip, obviously. So that's out of the way. But the main thing that most people, you know, kept asking or kept, referring me to do was boost by gear. And let me go ahead and kill that bird right now. Boost by gear will not be getting done to my car anytime soon. And the reason why is you always want to go with the best wheel and tire setup before taking power away from your car. Regardless of what you've been told, regardless of what you think you know, boost by gear will affect your ET, you know, your track time, meaning you're literally killing yourself. So what I will be doing is going with a better wheel and tire setup first. The maximum amount of grip I can get on my car first, well before touching boost by gear, and making sure that my transmission tune is correct, which is one of the good parts in this video. I'm not running the stage 3 flash on my custom, not XHP stage 3. This is the third revision of my custom tune because the tuners at XHP found more stuff that was hitting limiters that was stopping the car from performing. So now she performs even better, you know, but let me get back to that. So I'm going to be doing a better wheel and tire setup first, because you can ask any real drag any drag racer who runs drag radials or a drag tire. And I'm not talking about your average BMW Audi guy that just does it for, you know, Beamer Fest or Euro Wars. I'm talking about real drag racers that run real drag radials and drag tires that do this stuff professionally. They will tell you always go in the suspension and the wheel and tire before going into power. You're killing yourself doing it the opposite way. So that's not what we're gonna do. Okay, so let's get back into the good news and the bad news of today. So the good news is, starting off, is the new trans tune. My stage 3 or version 3 trans tune for my custom XHP tune feels very promising, very promising. And here I'm gonna show you guys my car at 100% wastegate duty cycle, meaning She's getting everything that she can out of her turbos, and being in the 30 plus pound boost range all the way through all those 6 gears, you know, showing that she's running good. And then I'm going to show you the bad part about that. So check this out. Okay, so as you can see from that log, you know, from each gear, Sasha was moving, freight train. I mean, heavy steam. And that means the limiters that were affecting her launch and other things at the track has now hopefully been rectified. And that was a regular asphalt run right there. That wasn't even a track run. So, and I think her top speed for that gear was, I think 133 mile per hour, you know, and that was on the street. So, I mean, yeah, Sasha, she should, when we can get her correctly, she should be an animal. But yeah, the thing I didn't notice is, if you scroll all the way down, because when your tuner tunes, he tunes with DME 1 and 2 visible. If you look at your data logs right now on BM3, you're just going to see one side of the engine, unless you turn it to log both sides. You know, once we turned it to log both sides of the engine, we noticed that the left side and the right side was getting 2 different intake temps, and they're 20 degrees apart. That's horrible. You know, if the right side was getting 80, you know, the left side was getting 50. You know, it was that much of dramatic change. You know, so a 60 I meant. So we needed to get that rectified, and I found the problem. Well, I kind of knew this was gonna be a problem in hindsight, but I didn't really think about it too much. And this is the problem, guys. So let me tell you, I know you guys know how intercoolers work, but let me explain to you how they work. You have, on the twin turbo V8s, you have 2 intercoolers. There's 2 ports at the bottom, 2 ports at the top. The 2 ports at the bottom receive fluid, and the 2 ports at the top expel the fluid. You know, and when the fluid runs through that intercooler, boost runs through the heat exchanger inside of that intercooler, and the fluid strips the heat away from that boost, and it goes into the engine. So what's happening is, since I had my F90 coolers custom made for my F86, I had to get the port on the right side moved back to where it is on the left side. So now both bottom ports match and the top ports match. But from the factory, it's not like that. They're staggered from the factory. The left side is on the back, and the right side is on the front. Who knows why they did that, but it's like that. And it wouldn't fit my RK intakes like that, as my RK intakes hug the intercoolers and then go down between the radiator assembly and the front bumper. It was no way for me to even hook my intakes up if I ran it like that. So I had to get that port cut and moved to the back. So the welder cut, the fabricator cut that port, welded that hole back, drilled the new hole on the back, welded that port there, and now everything fits correctly. But the bad thing about that is BMW uses they aren't made by BMW. I think Pierberg makes the intercoolers. Whoever makes the intercoolers uses a thin wall metal, because I think it's like brazed. I don't even think the ports are welded from the factory. They're like brazed or something like that. So when you weld that thin metal where that port is, the factory quick connect port, it penetrates very deeply. And when I looked inside of the port after having it welded, you can see the flowering of the port penetration. It's only 17 millimeters from the beginning. So that flowering probably dropped it down to about 14 in some spots. So what's happening is, when the interchiller coolant rushes up through the intercoolers from the bottom and it tries to exit through the top, it's getting blocked here. It's getting restricted. So that fluid stays in this intercooler a lot longer than the fluid stays in this one. This one just can get fresh, cold fluid from the interchiller tank constantly. When this one, it's being held up. You know, and you don't have that problem while idling because you're not pushing hot boost through the intercoolers while you're idling. So if I fill the tanks, the intercoolers while waiting to go on my next drag racing run, both of them feel cold and I'm like, okay, everything's good. But you can't have someone in the engine bay touching your intercoolers while you're doing 100+ miles down the drag strip. That's why it's so important to keep your eye on your data, both sides of the engine, guys, because it's a 20-degree difference on my car. And it's because that choke down point where the fluid can't leave, so it's getting stuck in the intercooler longer, being heated up by the boost at heavy throttle. All right, you see how smooth this is? And see the factory port there where it's brazed on, because that's damn sure not welded on, but you can see how smooth that is. Now I removed the gold coating off of this side so you can see exactly where it was welded, and you can see there this port is welded on, and you can see where it used to be where they put aluminum block where the old hole used to be. Now this was a lot better than this because since he actually added an aluminum panel or block there, the weld doesn't have much to penetrate on. It can penetrate into the actual body of the cooler itself, but it doesn't over penetrate because it has something else it can penetrate to, so it penetrates to a good amount. But this here is directly welded, the port directly onto the case, so it's just penetrated tremendously. And when I get these off and show you guys, you'll see how much it penetrated. I thought it wouldn't be that bad, but obviously it is. And you can see here that if that port was up, this intake couldn't fit there. So we're gonna definitely rectify that. And how we're gonna rectify that is I bought brand new aftermarket F90 intercoolers. Which we're going to do the same thing, which might sound counterproductive where we're going to move the port backwards on that one as well. But let me tell you why it's going to be different. These CTS intercoolers from CTS Turbo are made of very different aluminum. It's thick-walled aluminum, and the ports are different as well. So I'm not going to use the 17mm ID ports anyways because I run 1-inch lines. So why dumb it down to 17mm from 25mm? So what I'm going to be doing is sending them over to my buddy, the laminator, who lives a couple of states up. And what he's going to do is, he's a very good fabricator as well. He's going to lock those factory quick connect ports off, weld them up on the top right side where he's going to move it back, and we're going to put 1-inch barb fittings on both of them, on the top and the bottom of the intercooler. So it's 25mm full flow through the entire system for the intercoolers. So that way it's zero restriction. And the good thing about these barbs are they don't weld directly. You don't weld the barb directly. They have a thick aluminum billet boss on the barb. That is what you weld to the aluminum case. So that way it never gets a chance to penetrate down into the flow section. So that should mitigate that problem, and Sasha should be 100% powered in, because even though she's making 30+ pounds of boost, I mean, my car peaks at almost 40 pounds of boost. Like literally, I think the most I've made is like 36.5. I think almost 37. I think it was 30. I think it was 37.5 pounds of boost. Yeah, it was 37.5 pounds of boost. That's almost 40 pounds of boost. So the car made tons of power. It's just the computer was pulling time, and because the torque management wasn't right, and the car was heat soaking on one side and wasn't on the other side. So now we're going to rectify all of these problems, you know, and that just goes into drag racing. And once you get on the track, you find out everything was going on. So I'm glad I'm finding out all of these problems and stuff like that. But I knew in hindsight that little flowering from that weld penetration that I had welded over 2 years ago was going to cause a problem. I just wasn't able to see both sides of the DME with the logs. I didn't even know you can turn on both sides of your DME with BM3 software, but you can. You know, so definitely turn that on, guys, because just because you see IATs that's cold on one side, that doesn't mean they're cold on the other side. So keep that open. Keep that in mind. But yeah, I'm going to let you guys see that, see those custom intercoolers as soon as they return from the laminator. I'm getting them shipped directly to my buddy. He's going to hook those up, and I'm going to install those and let you guys see the difference, you know, of the temperature on both sides, and hopefully that rectifies the problem, because there's nothing inside. There's no blockages anywhere besides that one. You know, when I drained the coolant, vacuumed the system and refilled it on the last video, you know, there nothing but clean coolant came out. No metal shavings, no, you know, nothing. It's definitely that cooler being blocked, and when I remove it, I'll show you guys exactly how much it is blocked. But like I say, in hindsight, I kind of figured it would be a problem, but I'm like, okay, fluid dynamics, long as fluid is getting through, you know, I'm not thinking about me putting my chiller in kill mode and the 400 pump running at full blast heavy pressure. That thing moves a lot of gallons per minute, and it's a lot of pressure as well. That's definitely a bottleneck and a restriction in that intercooler. So I appreciate you guys rocking with me. Like, share, and subscribe, and Auto Lust out.